Hello everyone, welcome to Keen Ear. Now this will no doubt be the final collection update video of the year, or at the very least the final one before Christmas. And I just want to start off by saying that I managed to see Roxy Music a few months back now. Feels like a long time ago. It kind of wasn't really. It was just a couple of months at most really. And yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was the first time I've ever seen them before. It kind of lived up to expectations really. I didn't have huge expectations or anything like that. The only real sort of negative aspect of it really was that Brian Ferry's voice, I wouldn't say is kind of gone at this point, but it's kind of hanging by a thread, I suppose. The guy's, he's not a young guy anymore. I wasn't expecting, Brian Ferry to come on stage like it's 1975 or anything like that. He's not far behind Paul McCartney and that kind of thing. But, Paul gets a lot of stick really for, his voice and that kind of thing, and people saying we shouldn't tour anymore, can't really sing. But I actually think Paul's probably, in terms of his voice, he's kind of still got a little bit more in the tank than Brian Ferry, and I'd say Mick Jagger as well. He's around the same sort of age as well. The thing is with Brian Ferry though, he was never like a Freddie Mercury or anything like that. His voice was very sort of subtle and sort of very unique and quite nuanced and that sort of thing. So he didn't really have a huge amount to lose anyway. But even the, even like the what he had, he's kind of, it's kind of almost all but gone, unfortunately. But it was still very good to see them. The rest of the band were very good. Mackay and Manzanera and all that. They were truly fantastic, really good. And I'd say if Brian Ferry could sing like it was 1975, which I know is kind of impossible, really, but if he could, I'd say they were, you know, Roxy Music were probably one of the best live bands you could kind of see at this point in time. Even though the singing material, which is you know, are its newest, its newest sort of uh, release is about 40 years old at this point. It's still great to see them, and they are very much a legacy band. They are like the Stones and Paul McCartney, and they are these legacy bands that are kind of just going by the legendary status which is stretching out behind them now. The only thing about it as well I noticed was the song selection was kind of a bit strange, really. They were singing songs from albums which were definitely not the best albums, and they were definitely not the best songs from those not particularly great albums, really. So it's kind of a bit of an odd mix of songs that they were performing, which is kind of fine, really. We all know the hits of Roxy Music, so it's kind of nice to get some different different bits and pieces. But really, the last time I'd sort of seen Roxy Music perform in terms of not live, but just perform was on a DVD they got from about 20 years ago. And yeah, the passage of 20 years has definitely had a bit of a toll, particularly on Ferry's voice, really, in particular. But everything else was fantastic, and the backing group was fantastic as well. You know, they were almost too good, the backing singers. They were almost drawing attention away from the act that you're paying to see and everything. It was pretty much the best backing singers I've ever heard, kind of ever really, ever sort of seen perform. You know, just truly fantastic. Probably the best of the best, really. And I think Brian Ferry picked them out especially because he knew he's probably going to struggle a bit without them. But anyway, let's get on with the bits and pieces I'm going to be showing. The first of which is this. This is an album called The Rainbow Children from Prince, and it came out in 2001 originally. Picked this up on eBay. It's a used copy. Was actually in fantastic condition, a really, really nice condition, almost new, like new. And I think this album got a recent reissue for the first time, you know, since its initial release. And yeah, it's got a pretty freaky CD design to it. And I think it's definitely an album that, you know, if you haven't listened to in 20 years, or particularly if you've never listened to at all, you know, it's worth checking out, you know, giving some attention to. I think it is one of Prince's more interesting albums. Even the cover design's a bit strange, really, of Prince sort of at the spine there. You know, it's almost looking around the corner almost. And, you know, the CD is on the left-hand side rather than the right. That's how you know it's going to be a bit of a left field release, and it definitely is. It's definitely a bit of a freaky album at times, a bit more of a jazz uh, influence, definitely. I think this is the start of Prince's sort of jazz fixation that he had back in the 2000s. He incorporated a lot more jazz music into his stage shows, and he released actually a few. I believe there's an album called News, which I don't even think had a physical release in the UK, and that's purely an instrumental jazz album. And Prince recruited an all-female jazz band, as depicted on the cover there, you know, as the backing group. And yeah, really, really interesting. Some really good stuff on here. Some interesting things, some weird things. He's kind of stretching his wings a little bit on this album, and it's definitely not an album where Prince kind of thought, you know, I'm going to make an album that's going to be really commercial. You know, it's going to sell so many records. I think he kind of wanted to make this a bit more of a passion project, I suppose. You know, something a bit small scale and that kind of thing, and just kind of see what he could do really. And it is if you want to hear an album where Prince is kind of pushing himself artistically, this is quite a good album to check out. Maybe not one to check out if you're expecting something like Purple Rain or whatever, but yeah, a pretty interesting one. I'm kind of down to my last couple of Prince albums now. I just got a handful more to get, and I will. You know, I've mentioned this many times before. We'll get around to making some ranking videos. I wanted to do it this year early, but I've been just massively busy. It was a bit too ambitious, unfortunately. But tried to renovate an entire house this year, so it was really the worst year I could have picked, really, in the past, you know, my entire life, really. Well, besides when I was like 2 and 3 and that sort of thing, of course, to pick you know, a time to do this. I'll get round to it next year. So there'll be a Prince one next year, a Prince ranking video, a solo Beatles ranking video, and also as well, I'll probably be working out on a Bowie. I'm going to be doing a Bowie ranking video as well soon because I've nearly got all the Bowie albums. We'll get to Bowie in a little bit, but next we have the Red Hot Chili Peppers as the latest album, and in, you know, this year they put out 2 albums in the same year. It's the first time they've ever done that in their history, and both are pretty long albums. Both are double on, you know, if you've got the vinyl edition. So yeah, 4 LPs worth of music in 1 year. So yeah, it's kind of a lot to get your teeth into, really. I'm not too sure whether I prefer this one or the other. You know, Chili Peppers album. I think both have got the good things about them, some not so good things about them. The Chili Peppers, you know, if you listen to this and listen to their first album, it's almost, you know, massively different. You know, it's so you know, they almost poles apart. You know, the difference and the quality of their, you know, studio recording, you know, experience kind of shines through a lot more in this. They're very much a studio band now, which was the opposite. Of course, when they were younger, they were just a bunch of crazy maniacs, really, I suppose. And at this point, they kind of settled down a lot. They kind of know the score they should do really after all these years, and they're kind of ticking along, doing pretty good. I feel like pretty good, rock music, and it's got a bit of psychedelic to it, with a progressive rock in places. Pretty good. It's a pretty good album, and I don't think it's necessarily gone up there with their best, but I don't think it's down there with the worst either. So yeah, wonder how many records we'll get from them next year. We'll have to wait and see. We'll move on to, and I picked that up brand new. It was from HMV, I think. It wasn't very expensive. You can get new albums now for, I think I paid like $6.99 or $7.99 for it. But anyway, this is George Harrison's Dark Horse. And I got one more George Harrison album to get my hands on now, and I've kind of got them all. And this is a nice original copy, UK copy that I picked up from eBay. And you got the sort of school photograph there with all the freakiness that George added to it and all that. And yeah, it's looking at this cover, what it made me think of is the fact that George, he left school with no qualifications whatsoever, and that's him coincidentally. And when you think about it, George Harrison leaving school without even even a music qualification, he's kind of, I feel like he was kind of very much let down by the education system, very much so. He's such a clever guy, and school didn't really pick up on that, unfortunately. Well, anyway, it's a gatefold cover, and yeah, it's a fairly nice copy of a fairly unremarkable, I guess, Beatles, solo Beatles album. It's the one I'd imagine, this album before, the vinyl revival, you could probably pick up for about 10p. It's kind of increased significantly since then, since the interest in all these records. But anyway, it's a complete copy. It comes with, this. I think this is George's writing of Inner Sleeve. Reminds me quite a bit of John Lennon's solo albums where he did this type of thing. I think sometime in New York City's got a similar sort of design to it. But anyway, it comes with this lyric sheet as well, and the record, which I'm not going to get out, but it's got the the eyes on the label, and yeah, it's a pretty good album. I think it's safe to say it's not one of the best solo Beatles albums, or it's definitely not one of the worst either. I've never really heard anyone say anything about it, quite honestly. Really, I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, they hate this album," or anyone say they love this album. It's kind of it's kind of just very much an overlooked. It's probably one of the most overlooked sort of solo Beatles albums, sort of George Harrison albums. And yeah, I've got one more to get my hands on, and then I've got the whole George Harrison collection. I've got to make my way through a few more Paul McCartney, and then I'm more or less there, really, quite honestly. So we'll move on now to just two more things, but they are two pretty big things, to show in terms of the content of them. And the first one I'm going to be showing is this is David Bowie's This Brilliant Adventure, 1992 to 2001. And this box set came out in about last year, around this time, sort of last year. And yeah, this is a period of David Bowie that I was pretty interested in checking out, really, because it's an area of Bowie which I knew little bits here and there, and I quite liked the little bits here and there that I heard and I was aware of. But I felt like I was really, I didn't know enough, really. I needed to really check this out and kind of dig a bit deeper, really. I was kind of very intrigued to check this out. And yeah, I started playing all of the CDs and everything, really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it so much so that I got this box set as well. This is David Bowie's Loving the Alien, 1983 to 1988. And yeah, I was doing a bit of research on these box sets, while I was playing around, listening to them, online, and I sort of discovered that there's effectively fake versions of these, counterfeit versions of these. So let this part of the video be a bit of a cautionary tale to you, because I suspect both of these are effectively Chinese knockoffs, really. And there's reasons why I feel like that. I'm not going to go into them because it's kind of obvious stuff, really. The seller, I got them on eBay, and what the seller has effectively got as up for sale alongside these box sets is kind of it's the sort of stuff that you can kind of tell has just come off a crate from China, and it's kind of like cheapo toys and cheap kids toys and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't give me a lot of sense of this person really is a specialist dealer in music and that kind of thing. They're just kind of selling any old crap they can kind of get the hands on. Not that this is any old crap. This is actually quite good quality crap. Quite honestly, if these are forgeries, which I think particularly the Loving the Alien box set is in particular, the level of forgery, really, the quality of the forgeries is kind of unbelievably good. And I'll tell you why I think that the Loving the Alien box set in particular is fake, because I've got here Let's Dance album, and the CD itself, it looks all right like that, but when you flip it around, it's like a silvery color, which is typical for CDs, of course. Now these are supposed to be gold, and if you pull out a CD for the box set of Brilliant Adventure, these are actually golden colored, and yeah, they're all supposed to be the same color effectively. But one thing I didn't really know about these box sets is that they are limited editions. So whenever when they make them for so long, and they're not strictly limited or anything like that, but when they're made for so long, and then they go out of print effectively. So the original, well, not the original, the first so many box sets that have come out, the ones from the 1970s, are actually quite. They've actually proven to be quite a good investment. The value of them's gone up, particularly the vinyl editions, more so than the CD editions. But obviously, with these being forgeries, who knows how much they'll be worth in the future. But that's something you definitely, with the price of them going up effectively, and them getting more pricey in the future. I don't think these will be as pricey as the 70s box sets and that kind of thing. I think there's going to be definitely a case in the future where people are going to get ripped off effectively, and they're going to be fooled, and they're going to buy something that they weren't expecting. I don't know if they're making forgeries of the 70s box sets and that kind of thing. I'm not too sure, but like I said, the quality of these forgeries is kind of incredible, really. There's nothing really to indicate from the outside of the shrink wrap. It's even got the little thing, the little piece of paper thing. There's nothing really, the printing quality is good. There's nothing really to indicate to me from the outside that these are fake. And even when you open them up and look inside, the albums, they come these mini little, they've got the inner sleeves, printed inner sleeves of the CDs, the quality of the covers and everything. They even come with these little baggies for the CDs themselves. So it's kind of unbelievably good quality, and on the CDs, the numbers and that kind of thing, all the little letterings on the dead wax, I don't know what you call them on the CD, but they match I've looked on Discogs and they match so I'm not sure exactly how they've done this. These aren't like CDRs or anything like that. These are proper made CDs. They are made by a proper manufacturer, and I'm not sure exactly. Anyone in the comments know how they actually do this, because I don't know. I don't know how they would. Because the thing is with CDs, they're not as easy as people assume. You just think you press a button on a big massive machine and you print out all these CDs. It's kind of not as simple as that. They are actually quite tricky to make to this sort of standard and that kind of thing. There is something more to it than that kind of thing. Not that they're more difficult to make than vinyl. Vinyl is more tricky. It's more of an art form, making vinyl records. But even so, CDs aren't as, isn't as easy as you might suspect. So I don't know how they do this, quite honestly. I don't know how they do this level of and I do think these are forgeries, with the CDs being silver. I think that's just a complete giveaway that these are fake. It's like the only thing they've slipped up on, really. And also, this I've peeled them up, but it had stickers on the outside of the box, and it had a lot of Chinese text on it. And these are supposed to be made in Germany. I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they are fakes or anything, but it's an indication. You know, there's a lot of indicators that these are fake. And there's you know the CDs, I think, being the big one of the you know, the Love and the Alien box set. But anyway, take a look at the book of the Love and the Alien, and yet really nice quality. You know, even the lettering on the spine here is embossed. So there's very little here to indicate that this is a fakery. You know, it's really nicely printed and everything. You know, you know, and this is looking through the inside of it. You know, if you've got one that's shrink wrapped, you've got no chance at all of knowing what's what, really. And wanted to show this, which is included. If I can find it. It's a little advertisement in the Love and the Alien box set. Ricochet, some sort of art book that they were promoting at the time. And I believe, according to Discogs anyway, apparently the second copies didn't even include this, the official one. So to include this, is the level of detail is kind of staggering, really. You know, as I've shown you, it's got all the bits and pieces. So let's go relatively quickly through the albums. You get Tonight. Again, really nice quality to it. You get this live album. This is Glass Spider, live in Montreal, 1987. And this is actually a gatefold. You know, it's just really lovely. It comes with, you know, the nice inner sleeves. You can get them out. Not the easiest things to get out, but yeah, it's just really nice. Just, you know, that's the thing. You know, if the quality wasn't there, if this was just a really cheap, horrible thing, I'd probably try and get my money back. But I've actually decided I'm kind of happy enough with the money that I paid with the quality of this. You know, even though it is a fakery, you know, I'm kind of a bit in a dilemma, quite honestly. Anyway, this is Cirrus Moonlight Live, 1983. Again, nice, nice set there. This is Recall 4. It's a load of non-album track, sorry, sort of single versions and all that kind of stuff, extra bits and pieces. And this is a 2 CD set. You get Never Let Me Down album. You get Never Let Me Down again, but this is a rejiggered version from 2018 with all like new production and that kind of thing. Bowie apparently wasn't very happy with the production originally, and they decided in 2018 to do that. So that's kind of interesting that they went to that trouble. And you also get this CD as well, which is David Bowie Dance, and it's a load of 12-inch singles, extended dance mixes and that kind of thing. So yeah, very nice indeed. And you know, for a forgery, you know, you've kind of got to take your hat off to them. You really have. So we'll move on to The Brilliant Adventure. This is the book that comes with it, and again, it's got this nice textured cover to it, just like the box has. Now let's find a nice photograph in there. There's Bowie. Again, really nice printing quality. You know, the attention to I'm not sure if they've done a vinyl version, you know, a fake version of this. You know, these box sets. I can only imagine the prices that they're going for. I guess, you know, quite honestly, if I was making forgeries to this quality, I'd make it of the vinyl 70s box sets, which are fetching, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pounds. You know, they were hundreds and hundreds of pounds when they were new. So I'd no idea how much they're going for now. Pretty eye-watering prices, I'd imagine. I kind of don't really have a huge amount of interest in them personally because, well, the hundreds of pounds for one, but I also have, you know, I already have like Ziggy Stardust and Hunky Dory and Heroes and Low and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I've got this album. This is the first one I'll be showing from the Brilliant Adventure box set. This is BBC Radio Theatre from the year 2000. Nice, actually a very nice live live album, this from Bowie. Some good stuff on here. All of this stuff is pretty damn good, quite honestly. You got Recall 5. Is it Recall 5? Yeah, Recall 5. 3 CDs. A lot of stuff. Some really interesting things on here. Some stuff that, you know, it's not on the albums. Kind of glad that I got this box set, really. Partly for this. This is a good thing to have, because there's some really good stuff. And there's remixes on here that are really good as well. Some cases they're better than the original album versions. You also get this, which is pretty interesting. This was an album that Bowie recorded around the millennium, I believe. It's called Toy, and it's him basically re-recording, re-performing a lot of his 60s material, his very early stuff, some stuff that he recorded originally before his first album in 1967. There's also some new songs on here that, you know, he'd never. I don't know if he recorded them, wrote them around the time, or they were just kind of, he never got around to recording them back in the 60s. I'm not too sure, but yeah, there's some unreleased songs up until this point anyway. And yeah, so definitely an album I need to look into more. A lot of this stuff I've only listened to a handful of times, but yeah. Move on to this. This is a studio album, Black Tie, White Noise, and yeah, pretty interesting album from the early 90s. Quite like that one actually. This is Blood of Suburbia. And one of the things I noticed about this, which kind of caught my eye, was there's a mention there of inspiration and influences and that kind of thing for this, you know, this album's creation, a soundtrack to a TV show I've never watched, sorry. And one of the things that I noticed is it's got Mark Bolan, but it's Mark with a K instead of a C. Also, as well, it lists T-Rex, which I think is pretty strange. You know, it's almost like listing, you know, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, you know, both of them. You know, I wonder why they kind of did that. It's a bit of a strange one, because, you know, with Bowie being such a good friend and everything of Bolan, you know, and everything. So yeah, it's just something I noticed that I just thought I'd mention. So anyway, this is another studio album. This is Outside. And this album is kind of crazy. I kind of, at this point in time, I can't really make heads or tails of it, quite honestly. This is one of the most, this is literally probably, yeah, thinking about it, this is the most crazy album I've ever listened to by a major recording artist. I'm kind of going to say at this point. And included is the booklets as well that came, you know, this is the CD age, you know, for these these albums, these 90s albums. So yeah, you get booklets with them all as well, which is nice. And yeah, absolutely crazy album. Kind of don't really know what to make of it at this point. Now we got Hours, which is an album that nobody have heard really bad things about, but I actually quite like quite a bit. And yeah, lovely, you know, re-release. And I believe Eno actually remastered, you know, we helped remastering a lot of these these albums, you know, this music from all these recordings. And you get Earthling, you know, last but not least, you get Earthling. And I remember when this album was released, what was it, 1997, something like that. I remember seeing it on the shelves, you know, it's very vibrant, very distinct cover. And yeah, finally after all these years, well, you know, all these decades later, finally got a copy of my own so I can listen to it. So yeah, that's all the box sets of all the box set content. And yeah, just a word of warning, really. You know, if you are someone who is looking to pick up this box set, you know, Brilliant Adventure, I would highly recommend. If you want to, you know, if you're one of these people who only wants official stuff, you don't want any fakeries or anything like that, and you knockoffs, buy it direct from Bowie's website or a reputable dealer. And you know, the fact that it's got the sticker on it as well, you know, if this is a fakery, which I think it is, you know, it's you know, in the next 20 years or so, this is going to be next. Well, not even that. You know, we're at this position now where it's kind of impossible almost, or next to impossible for a normal person. You know, somebody who's not an expert in this type of thing to tell the difference between this and an official copy. It really is. It's very difficult. So yeah, if you want this and you are someone who only wants official stuff, buy it through a reputable seller. Don't go on eBay or try and get a cheapo copy, because chances are you'll get a fakery then you won't even know it, and the person who's selling you it probably won't even know it's fake either. It's that kind of good, you know, even if it's opened and everything. And when it comes to the Love and the Alien box set, which is out of print, and pretty much all the other ones, I'd imagine, I'm not too sure, but I know for certain that this one is a fakery as well. You know, more so than obviously the Brilliant Adventure box set. But if you are someone who wants an official copy of this, kind of just forget about it. Really, I think your chance is gone. You should have got one back in 2018. The chances of you picking this up and it being a fake is actually pretty damn high. You know, if you're buying it through a third party seller and that kind of thing, you're not going to be able to go to David Bowie's official website to buy this because they don't have her anymore because it's a limited edition. So yeah, you kind of missed the boat really. You're just going to have to find another way of getting them, unfortunately, or you're going to have to try extra hard, to get an official copy. You're going to have to get, if you find one with gold CDs and that kind of thing, maybe it's an official one. But even if you find one with gold CDs, I wouldn't be too surprised if that's a fake one too, quite honestly. Looking at this one, maybe some of them are silver, maybe some of them are gold. It's a real minefield. It really is. You entering a truly are entering a minefield of this kind of thing. So yeah, just get this one and forget the rest. Pick them up individually and that sort of thing. So yeah, let that be a word of warning, a little Christmas word of warning from me to you. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. The next video will be probably 2023. I've got my eye on making a couple of videos. Well, I say this at the end of every video and I never kind of get around to it, but there was one that I want to start about a thread about hi-fi equipment. Whether that'll have legs or anything is kind of up for debate at this point, or any point really, quite honestly. So yeah, if I don't make a video from now until Christmas, Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a holly jolly Christmas and a very merry New Year.